Welcome to Blackspot. In politics, you kind of expect things to follow a certain logic, right? Success gets rewarded, and, well, failure is supposed to have consequences. But every once in a while, a story comes along that just flips that whole idea completely on its head. Today, we're digging into the really perplexing case of Nitin Nabin, a politician whose career seems to be built on a giant contradiction, overseeing a catastrophic public failure, only to be handed one of his party's highest national promotions. So, yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does that happen? On the surface, it makes absolutely no sense. But as we're about to see, if you start to peel back the layers of the official story, you uncover a very different set of rules and a very different set of priorities. Okay, let's get into it. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the paradox itself. Then, we'll dive into both sides of the story, the absolute disaster of the collapsing bridges and the official defense that came afterward. From there, we'll get to the shocking promotion and, this is the most important part, we're going to unpack the hidden strategy that actually connects these two things that seem to be total opposites. This will help us solve this political puzzle piece by piece. At the very heart of this story, you've got two completely conflicting narratives, and they're happening at the exact same time. On one side, there's Nitin Nabin, the minister in Bihar who's presiding over this massive, headline-grabbing infrastructure crisis. And on the other side, you've got Nitin Nabin, the rising star, being lifted up to one of the most powerful jobs in his party's national leadership. Let's start with the crisis. Okay, so the first part of our story takes us to Bihar in the summer of 2024. And this isn't just about concrete and steel falling down. It's about a fundamental breakdown in public infrastructure. And more importantly, a breakdown in the trust that people are supposed to have in their government to keep them safe. And this quote, wow, it just captures the raw feeling on the ground perfectly. This isn't just some political opponent talking. This is the voice of a regular person who is watching the promises of development literally crumble right in front of their eyes. And this feeling, this idea of a hollowed-out system, it just spread like wildfire as the crisis got worse. The cost wasn't just about public trust either. We are talking about a staggering financial hit. I mean, the estimated loss to the state was over 3,953 crore rupees. That is a massive, massive figure. And it all happened under the watch of the man in charge of the road construction department, Nitin Nabin. And look at this timeline. It shows this wasn't some one-off freak accident. No, this was a relentless wave of failures. It starts in June with a bridge in Araria. Then another one falls, and another across all these different districts. By August, the total count hit 15 collapses. This story was everywhere, and it painted a picture of just systemic failure and incompetence. So you've got this massive public anger building up. The media is in a frenzy. How did the administration respond? Well, this is where we see the public story get very, very carefully constructed. It was a defense that came from multiple angles, all designed to control the narrative. Honestly, the response was a masterclass in crisis management 101. You had the immediate, very visible actions like suspending some engineers. Then you had the political deflection, of course, blaming the previous government. And then came all these forward-looking promises, a fancy new bridge maintenance policy, a partnership for an AI-driven health index. The message they were sending was crystal clear. We see the problem and we are using sophisticated, modern solutions to fix it. Now, I want you to hold that image of crisis and response in your head, because in December of 2025, the story takes a turn that, I promise you, nobody saw coming. While the dust from the collapsing bridges had barely even settled, Nitin Nabin gets this shocking national promotion, a move that political analysts were just calling a total political curveball. And this promotion, it came with the highest possible stamp of approval. The Prime Minister himself praised Nabin, calling him a young and hardworking leader whose work had been very effective. Now that's the official story. That's the portrayal of a competent, dedicated guy. But how in the world does that square with what was actually happening just a few months earlier? And when you put it side by side like this, wow, it's just night and day, isn't it? On the left, you have this glowing official endorsement. On the right, you have the documented administrative record. I mean, these two realities seem impossible to reconcile. So here's the crucial question. What hidden logic connects them? Why was the record on the right completely ignored for the story on the left? This is the point where our investigation shifts from the what happened to the why it happened. And to understand this decision, we have to look right past the public stuff, like administrative performance, and start to uncover the internal metrics, the things the party leadership truly values. And here they are. See, from the central leadership's point of view, Nabin's recent track record as a minister was way less important than these things. He was organizationally loyal to a T, he had deep roots in the party's youth wing, he was a proven vote winner in his own right, and he'd successfully managed elections in other states. And crucially, he was fully aligned with the central command and didn't have his own independent power base. That meant he would carry out their vision, no questions asked. These were the metrics that really mattered. So let's put it all together. The promotion wasn't a reward for how he performed as a minister. It was a strategic move designed to tighten power at the national level. The two events that seem like total opposites, the failure and the promotion, they're actually two sides of the very same coin, and a political strategy that values loyalty and control above everything else. To really get this strategy, you have to hold both realities in your mind at the same time. So first, you have the public failure, a minister overseeing a systemic, costly, and frankly embarrassing series of infrastructure collapses. This is the clear-cut case against him. And then, boom, the political reward, the very same guy gets lifted up to a top national post. And why? Not because of his ministerial record, but to reinforce central control and to reward unwavering organizational loyalty. The contradiction is it's jarring. But you might be thinking, how could the party make such a seemingly tone-deaf move without facing a huge political backlash? Well, the final piece of the puzzle is something we can call the Bankipur fortress. Nabin had won his home constituency 5 times, and not just one with huge margins. This electoral dominance basically acted as a political shield. It let the party leadership argue that, hey, despite the scandal, his support among the people was unshakable, which made him a politically safe bet. And that brings us to the core finding of our whole investigation. The Nitin Nabin Paradox, it's not really a paradox at all. It is the result of a calculated strategy. It reveals a political math where unwavering loyalty to the organization and the centralization of power are simply worth more than a clean record of public service. Rewarding Nabin sent a very loud and clear message to everyone else in the party about what is truly valued. And this leaves us with one final big question. It's not just about one politician or even one party. It's about the very nature of political accountability itself. I mean, if the real metrics for getting ahead are internal loyalty instead of public performance, then what does accountability to the people truly mean? That's definitely a question worth thinking about. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. If you want more deep dives that look beyond the official story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Blackspot. We'll see you next time.